All right, everyone. Let's get started for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll first start by just sharing our orientation etiquette for this evening. So please keep your microphone muted for the duration of this presentation, just for the first part. Please hold your questions until the breakout room session with your area leader. At that point, that's when you'll be able to ask questions and talk to everybody in the room. My name is Kiana Louis Charles, and I'm the volunteer manager here. Also joining me is Hannah Steeds, Jameen Ackert, and Jeff Heaton, who also work for Volunteer Services. I now want to invite Mark Monahan to speak. He is our Executive Director and Artistic Director.
Thanks, Kiana, and thanks to the team that have put this together. It's an amazing turnout. It's great to see so many people online. I know that all of you, many of you have been around for a number of years, but also just a welcome to all the people who are first year volunteers or volunteer leaders. I think it's really important to recognize that although we have so many returning volunteers, we also have obviously new people that we need and encourage, and that's great to see. I just want to say just a general welcome. We talk about this, year round, but when it comes down to the festival, we don't have the ability in terms of the small group and the core staff to know everyone out there. And really, what we rely on is all of you to be our ambassadors. And we often talk about all the people that return every year to the festival, but 25 to 30% of all of our patrons are coming for the first time. And sometimes we assume everybody knows where everything is and how to get around, but really, what we really need you to do is obviously provide a fantastic experience to everyone that's there, but in particular to welcome the new people that come out and just to give them a helping hand or just encourage them to enjoy in the ways that you have. So I just want to say a big welcome to everybody. We're looking forward to a great year. We've had really strong sales for this year. And it looks like we're going to have a very successful event. So welcome everybody, and I'll go back to the team.
Thanks so much, Mark. All right, everyone. Let's start with our mission. The Ottawa Bluesfest is a nonprofit charitable organization. Our mission is to present a world-class music festival featuring international, Canadian, and local artists in downtown Ottawa each July. We are youth-friendly, community and visitor-focused, culturally diverse, and committed to sustainability and eco-friendly initiatives. Our code of conduct and our harassment policy. So we ask that during the festival, you attend all of your scheduled shifts. So anything you sign up for, we ask that you attend those. Please be kind and respectful to all people you see on site. This could be patrons, it could be staff, it could be volunteers, it could be anyone you see that comes through our gates. There is no drinking or using cannabis or other intoxicants at any point before or during a volunteer shift. We ask that during your volunteer shift, you arrive sober. Please read all of the policies, which include the code of conduct, our harassment policy, and follow them at all times while on site. These can be found on on the volunteer website at the resources page or on your volunteer registration form. I just wanted to let everyone know that this will also be recorded, so if you don't have time to take notes, you'll have a copy of this afterwards. Here are some perks of being a volunteer at Ottawa Bluesfest. So you'll receive a free RFID wristband for the festival and a volunteer t-shirt. We give this to you and we ask that you don't share it with anybody else. It's your shirt and your wristband. There is a volunteer village with welcome center and snacks and also a special theme this year. It also includes some games and a special food truck just for volunteers. At the welcome center on Volunteer Village, there is a volunteer bag check as well. You'll receive a meal token for a free vendor meal, or if you'd like, you can also get a sandwich from the Welcome Center for every single one of your shifts. You'll receive that meal voucher. Next, there is a bike park and free OC Transpo access to the festival before and after your shift. Here are some perks, but there's lots and lots of perks on site. There's lots of raffles, there's lots of gifts, and I'm hoping you'll have a great time. Okay, our Ottawa Bluesfest volunteer top 10. So, number one, know what you signed up for. This could mean reading your job description. It could mean reading the accessibility sheet we provide to you, but it could also mean having a chat with your area leader to know what to expect, where to meet, all of that stuff. And today will be a good opportunity to do that. Number two, please adhere to the policies about drugs and alcohol. Number three, please respect patrons, artists, fellow volunteers, and anyone else that you may see while you're on site with us. Number four, please notify your area leader as soon as possible if you cannot attend a shift. All of your area leaders have your schedules and they expect you to be there for each of your shifts. So if you happen to not be able to attend one of them, please let them know as soon as you know. Number five, please be reliable. Number six, please report to your area leader or supervisor at the beginning of each shift. We'll look at a map together and what you should bring to your shift and where you should go. But the first thing you'll do is go to volunteer check-in, get your wristband activated, and then you'll go to your area leader wherever your meeting spot is. Number seven, please use technology appropriately while you're on site and while you're working your shift with us. Number eight, please be present. We love to build community during this event. We love to see other volunteers. And each year that you come, you realize that it's such a family that you're seeing. And we love to have everyone involved. And we love to meet new volunteers and also see our returning volunteers as well. Number nine, please respect the privacy of others and the confidentiality of festival information. We share a lot of things with volunteers that we don't share with our general public, so we just ask that you're mindful with sharing some of that information outside of the other volunteer population. And number 10, the most important one, have some fun. Have lots and lots of fun. We're very excited for this year. Okay, some hours of operation. So we'll start with volunteer check-in. Again, that's where you're going to start your day, and that's where you get your wristband and your volunteer t-shirt. They open each day at 2 p.m. and they'll close at 9:30 p.m. The next one is Welcome Center, which is in the same building as volunteer check-in. They also have the bag check. They open at 2 p.m. and they close up at 11:30 p.m. Next is our free show check-in tent, and that's where you check in to see a free show. And that is located on the corner of Vimy and Booth. We'll look at a map so that you can see where that is. But that free show check-in tent will open at 5 p.m. and they'll close up at 10 p.m. We have our bike park open to all volunteers and all of our patrons. They'll open at 3:30 p.m. and they'll close up at 11:30 p.m. Our volunteer admin office, this is located in the War Museum that we'll see. It also has the Lost and Found at the volunteer admin office. They open at noon and they close at 11:30 p.m. Next, our gates each day to the festival, they open at 5 p.m. for patrons. And then lastly, our vendors, where you get a meal. They open at 4 p.m. and they close up around 11 p.m. They could close a little earlier and they could close a little later for you. All of this is on our resources page on our volunteer website, so you don't have to memorize this. We also provide you with some cheat sheets to bring to the festival, so you have lots and lots of resources to help guide you through this great experience. Okay, so let's look at a map here. So this is our site map for 2025. I wanted to mention that OC Transpo is offering free rides for Ottawa Bluesfest volunteers and for patrons between 2 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. daily. So if you're coming to the festival via OC Transpo, you can show them your wristband. Same thing with the train. You'll have to use the virtual button to speak to someone so that they can see your wristband. But this is available each festival day. So not on our dark days, on the days we close, but when there's programming, OC Transpo is free for volunteers and patrons. We also wanted to mention that there is no on-site parking for volunteers, so we suggest that you please walk, bike, or take public transportation where possible. All right, guys, so I just wanted to go over some important points on the map for volunteers. So I'd like to start with OC Transpo. This is where many of you will probably arrive from on site. And OC Transpo, you can see, is all the way kind of downwards on Booth Street. So OC Transpo is up this hill. So you would come down the hill. And then once you come down the hill from OC Transpo, you'd see on the right of Booth Street, there would be the bike park. If you're a returning volunteer, you'd be familiar with where our bike park is located. And then if you keep walking down Booth Street, at that point, you'll cross some water. You'll see that. And then you'll get to our volunteer village. We call this Volunteer Village. We call it Volunteer Island, Albert Island. You may hear different ways of referring to it, but this is our volunteer village, and it's a dedicated spot only for volunteers, only for you and for you to hang out with other volunteers. We continue to bring new things to our volunteer village, whether that be a theme or a food truck, or this year there's a new machine coming to site. I know last year we had our popcorn and our snow cones. This year there's going to be something new along with all of the other things we did last year. So it's a really great place to hang out with all of your fellow volunteers. So our volunteer island, I mentioned that's where volunteer check-in is located. So that's where you'll start your day each time you're coming to check in for a shift. If you're scheduled for a shift, you go to volunteer check-in, and they'll activate your wristband, they'll give you a food voucher, and they'll also give you a t-shirt. In the volunteer, and that's located in the building. There's a building on Volunteer Island. So volunteer check-in is there, and right beside volunteer check-in is also the Welcome Center. So they're in one big building, and the Welcome Center is where you can get snacks. It's where our bag check is for volunteers. So lots of good things to check out on the island. On the other side of the island, there's actually this pedestrian bridge here. So there's two entrances to get onto the island. If you were to come down from the OC Transpo, maybe you park your bike or you're just walking straight to check-in, you could then go to the other end of the island and use this pedestrian bridge to come to site. So as I mentioned, it's volunteer only. So only volunteers can come through this building and this path here. And then once you cross the pedestrian bridge, there actually is a volunteer only gate. So once you sign in for your shift, you can enter through the festival through this volunteer gate here. Okay, I wanted to mention some other important points. So right here, right down Booth Street, this is where Free Show Check-in tent, the volunteer Free Show Check-in is. It's at the corner of Vimy and Booth, as I mentioned, right before the museum. You'll see that on the corner. And this is where you sign in for a free show. So if you're not scheduled for a shift, this is where you would come. And then you would enter through the main gate once you're all set to see your free show. I wanted to mention a very large building that you'll see on site, and that's the Canadian War Museum. You may, if you're having trouble getting to site, if you type in LeBreton Flats, you could also type in the War Museum because that's where we are, and that's where you can find some water stations. That's the next thing I wanted to mention. So there is a water station in the War Museum, and it's also air conditioned. We'll be talking about our evacuation points, and this is a great spot to point out. So everyone should know where the War Museum is and what it looks like. And so that's the first water station. The next one is right in the bowl here. And right beside this water station, you could actually see the first aid tent as well as the info booth. I mentioned again, we'll be speaking about our emergency plan. The info booth is something that we'll mention. So it's very important to know where our information booth is. And then our last water station is, it looks like right beside Welling Street here, all the way down in the bowl, right on this point here. So 3 water stations. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention the LeBreton stage on this side of the map. I wanted to mention the LeBreton stage because I'll be talking about that stage a little bit later. That's where we're actually going to meet next for the next training that we have. And I'll talk about that soon. Okay, I'd like to move on to our 2025 Ottawa Bluesfest Emergency Preparedness Plan. So I'm going to bring that up and we'll go through that together. So this is a one-pager that you'll all be able to have access to. Your leaders are very familiar with it. It's also on our resources page. And again, we'll go through it together right now. So this is our emergency plan. So it's important to be familiar with what you should do. But in any case, we have lots of staff, lots of leaders, lots of supervisors, and security, police, first aid, lots of people on site to help you. So don't ever feel like you're alone in an emergency. Look to who can support you, and we're here to do that. I also want to mention that later we'll also be doing a bystander awareness training to hopefully provide you with all of the resources to help you feel comfortable with all of the experiences you have while on site with us. Okay, so our Ottawa Bluesfest 2025 emergency information. So Central Command, which is referred to as CC, will be staffed during all operating hours to facilitate communications as directed to respond to any incidents or disruptions. The Central Command has a phone number, and I would suggest you save this phone number in your cell phone just in case you need it. As I mentioned, we have lots of supervisors and leaders on site. They all have radios and they can radio Central Command. But if you find yourself nowhere near a supervisor or a leader or security or anybody with a radio, then having that number saved in your phone is very handy to use at any time you feel like it could be an emergency or if you feel like maybe you need some help with something. Always speak to your leader first as soon as you can because they'll have the best idea about what to do, where to go, and who you should call. Prior to or post operating hours, Central Command will not be staffed. In an emergency situation, call 911 immediately and call your site contact via cell phone. So we always recommend starting with Central Command because we do have Ottawa Police on site and they are most familiar with our emergency protocols and where to go. But of course, if you find yourself in an emergency situation, that could be the direction.
I can hear them, but they can hear me.
So coding used in an emergency response. So we have three codes that we use. So the first one I'll start with is level green. So that is an all clear. Feel free to resume operations. And you don't need to memorize these colors. As I mentioned, there will be leaders that have this, and it's always good to maybe take a screenshot of this so that you have it. But I just want to, again, go through them with you. So level green, all clear. Level yellow, that is a minor or moderate incident or event. Level orange, which is a major incident or event. And level black, which is an area-wide incident/event. In the case of a missing child or a lost person, individuals reporting lost persons shall remain at their location for 5 minutes with the child to see if the parent or guardian returns to the area. After 5 minutes, the child should be escorted to the information booth. Remember, we saw that information booth on the map? That's where the missing child or person would be escorted to. At that point, the security will assist them with recalling any details, and this could mean obtaining their name, their age, description, the place they were last seen, and any potential destinations. Radio transmission using the code Family Matter will alert security of the situation and provide a description of the lost person. Again, if you find yourself in this situation, following this protocol of remaining there for 5 minutes, seeing if the parent, child, or person returns, and then heading to the info booth next would be your next step, and staying there to provide any information you can, and then immediately alerting a supervisor or an area leader so that they can make that call to security or to Central Command. A found child. Immediately upon recognizing a lost child, obtain the name of the lost child and, if possible, the name of the parent or the caregiver that they may be looking for. If a parent or guardian is reporting a lost child, you should ask for a photo of the child to distribute if possible. In the case of a full evacuation, should an emergency occur while the festival is in full operation, the Bluesfest traffic management plan will be put into place immediately. And what that means, again, is that you'll look to your area leader. I wanted to mention a very important evacuation spot. It depends if it's a full evacuation, but the first meeting spot should be the War Museum. Speak with your leader about where you should be going and where you'll be working, because you may be closer to the volunteer island, the volunteer building. But again, reviewing this emergency procedure with your leader is best for you because they know your area the best, and it may be a little different depending on which team you're with. Full evacuation if it is after hours. Should an emergency occur while the Bluesfest is not in operation or when the site is not open to the public, gates to the site will be open to personnel evacuating via the Canadian War Museum. Workers will relocate to the museum to await further instruction. If an emergency occurs before patrons are allowed on site, the site will remain closed to patrons until the Director of Operations, in consultation with the Executive and Artistic Director and the Emergency Control Group, is confident that the grounds and structures are safe and free of abnormal hazards that could adversely affect the health of patrons and staff. If City of Ottawa emergency responders are on site, they will be consulted. But the final decision to open or remain closed rests with the Executive/Artistic Director or the AHJ. Okay, so that is our emergency plan. Let's continue with our presentation. So just a gentle reminder to speak to your area leader to learn your area-specific emergency preparedness plan. Okay, some volunteer check-in reminders. So the first reminder is that you must bring your photo ID with you to volunteer check-in before your shift. So when you're checking into each and every one of your shifts, you'll need to bring your physical ID. If you look on our website, there is a list of the IDs we accept. It must be a physical ID. We don't accept photos of ID, and that list has examples of accepted ID on site. So when you're checking in for a shift, you need to bring your ID, but also when you're seeing a free show, you need to bring your ID. So that means if you're a volunteer with us, anytime you're on site, you'll need your ID. Whether you're seeing a free show, you're not seeing a free show, you're hanging out with friends, anytime you arrive to LeBreton Flats, please bring your ID. A very important thing to remember to bring. Volunteers aged 15 to 17 must bring their signed parental permission form to sign in for their very first shift. You will not be allowed to volunteer without it. So very important for our youth volunteers to remember to bring that form. The parental permission form can be found on our resources page, which is on our volunteer website, or in your area manual that your area leader has created for you. Volunteer check-in will open on July 10th at 2 p.m. You'll not be able to go and pick up your t-shirt and wristband before July 10th. So the first time you'll be able to get that stuff, which is your wristband and your shirt, is July 10th. They won't be open earlier. We know in the past, maybe during training night, you were able to stop by there, but the first time they'll be able to distribute that stuff for all of you will be on July 10th. So the first day of the festival at 2 p.m. Getting ready for your shifts. So some important things to remember to bring. Always check the weather and come prepared. At Bluesfest, we are rain or shine, so it's important to bring what you need, whether that is sunscreen, maybe it's a hat, maybe it's an umbrella or a rain jacket, a poncho. It's good to check the weather first and come prepared. Always wear your volunteer t-shirt while you're working and change into something else when you're not working. So when you're working your shift, we ask that you are wearing your volunteer t-shirt. And when you're seeing a free show, we ask that you don't wear your volunteer t-shirt. So if you come in for a shift and you plan to see a free show after your shift, please bring a different t-shirt to change into so that you have something to wear while you're seeing a free show. Please have your photo ID and permission parental form available with you, if applicable. So everyone will need to bring their photo ID to every shift, and then youth, you'll need to bring your parental permission form to your first shift. Please check in for your shift at the volunteer check-in, which is located at the volunteer island. I mentioned that the first thing you'll do when you come to site is head down to the volunteer island and check in with our volunteer check-in team, who will check your ID, they'll activate your wristband, they'll make sure you have a shirt, and they'll give you a meal voucher as well. They're also there to answer some questions for you if you may need pointers of where to go if you're new or not sure where your meeting spot is. And also, once we get to the end of this, you'll also have a chance to meet with your area leader. So you can ask them questions about this presentation if you have them, but also about things like meeting spots or expectations. Please make sure you check in with your area leader or supervisor at the beginning of each shift. So once you're done with volunteer check-in, you'll go to your meeting spot and make sure you check in with a supervisor or your area leader because they may have a paper version of attendance as well. They want to make sure that you get from check-in to them and that you don't get lost along the way. So they have a different attendance sheet as well to make sure that you have arrived for your shift. On-site training. I mentioned we're going to see each other very soon, and it'll actually be next week. So our on-site training will be an opportunity for you to see the site, meet your area leaders, and get some important training in your area. This will be held on Wednesday, July 9th at 6 p.m. We'll meet on-site at the LeBreton stage. So remember where we saw that on the map? It's okay if you don't remember. Our map is on our Ottawa Bluesfest website, so feel free to pull that up if you need to help direct yourself. We'll also be on site that day with lots of other volunteers who will be helping direct you to the LeBreton stage, but feel free to ask for it if you find yourself perhaps lost on that day. All right, everyone. Now we'll be going through some bystander awareness training. I wanted to introduce Julie Lalonge, who will be conducting and holding this training, and she is with Right to Be. Julie, I will make you a co-host. Just give me a moment. All right, Julie, you should be able to
Awesome.
screen share now.
Awesome. Just give me 1 second. Hi,
Sounds
everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So, hi, everyone. My name is Julie Lones. I am based here in Ottawa, but I work with an organization called Right to Be. And we train people on how to intervene if they are witnesses to any kind of hate and harassment. Our work is typically around street harassment, but we know that any kind of public space whatsoever, especially when you involve alcohol, and people are in a sort of party vibe, it means they're not necessarily paying attention to what's happening around them, or they might see stuff and not really know what to do. So I work under the belief that the average person wants to be a good person, but we tend to freeze when we see situations because we don't know what to do. And that's what training is for, because we know that with training, people can actually override their freeze response. And so if you see at any point someone who's being targeted, someone who's being harassed in some way, and you're like, how do I intervene in a way that's going to de-escalate the situation rather than just amping it up? I have a methodology that I'm going to teach you. So I'm just spending just a few minutes giving you a bit of a crash course on effective intervention. But I want to start with a quick little pop quiz for you. So if you want to hop in the chat and tell me, what percentage of people say it improved the situation? So I'm being harassed, like a cliched, I'm being cornered by someone who's being really creepy and awful. And then you, random person, no training, you show up and help me, you show up to intervene. What percentage of the time does it feel like you actually made a difference in a positive way? Do you think it's 15, 87, 45, or 62% of the time?
62.
So if you want to hop in the chat, let me know. Lots of, okay, I love that people are optimistic, and I love this because you are correct. It is 87. And sometimes people think it's as low as 15, but it's actually 87% of the time, even without training, your very presence to intervene makes a positive difference for the person who's being harmed. The problem is we're only doing that a quarter of the time. And so that is why Right to Be, an organization that's based in New York, that has existed since 2005. We've been here in Ottawa since 2010. So some of you might be familiar with Hollaback. That's what we used to be called, was Hollaback. And so we had chapters around the world where we captured people's stories of street harassment. And we found two things. One, if there are streets, there are people being harassed on those streets. But that two, the thing that single-handedly changes how people feel about the experience is the reaction of bystanders. Because it's one thing to be, someone yells some sort of racial slur at you, someone is being gropey and awful. That's awful, period. But then to see people watching you and not doing anything makes it so much worse, because you just feel awful knowing that you were basically abandoned by the folks around you, right? So this doesn't just apply to you doing work at Bluesfest, but I love that the Bluesfest organizers invite us to come, because these are really life skills that you can use on the bus, on the way to Bluesfest, if you're going out for drinks afterwards, right? And so these is a skill set of things that we need to be able to know. And frankly, we hope we never have to use them, but when a situation presents itself, you want to be prepared, right? So when we think about examples of street harassment, there's a whole whack pile of them, but I'm going to give you just a very quick little PSA that's going to show you some examples of sexual harassment in particular, something that unfortunately we know happens quite a bit in any kind of mass gathering in the city. So we have concrete data in the city of Ottawa that shows when there are mass gatherings, whether that's Canada Day, whether it's Bluesfest, whether it's whatever kind of festival, whatever kind of just big gathering of people coming together, that stuff goes down. And like I said, oftentimes people don't react. So I'm going to show you a PSA. It's not particularly graphic, but if you want to look away, you totally can. But what I want you to pay attention to, if you're comfortable watching it, is how bystanders respond to witnessing this happening. So we're going to give you examples of street harassment, but you could replace it with transphobia, homophobia, racism, you name it, any kind of bigotry. What I want you to focus on is like, how do people react to witnessing something happening right in front of them?
We see it happen everywhere, at any time.
78% of women have experienced sexual harassment in public spaces.
Like a suggestive comment,
A sexually explicit touch,
an inappropriate gesture,
or being followed. And it threatens our self-worth.
it takes over who we are.
We see it happen, but stay cautiously silent and uncomfortably look away.
maybe because we don't know what to do.
How to help.
Or how to combat the situation.
I said I'm fine, so don't bother me.
The time has come to keep our heads up and to stand up for each other against street harassment.
And everyone can be part of the solution.
Sorry, I'm gonna pay for it.
Excuse me. Is this yours?
Can you help me, please? I'm looking for this direction.
L'Oreal Paris and the nonprofit organization Holla Back have joined forces to teach men and women how to combat sexual harassment in public spaces with simple but impactful actions. Take a stand and learn how to combat street harassment at standup.l'orealparis.com because we are all worth it.
So, if you noticed, oftentimes, so what did you notice from what bystanders were doing? Well, a lot of it was probably not what you thought bystander intervention actually looks like, right? So it's actually a lot of really subtle, really creative, really passive stuff that is proven to be effective. It's not just like, oh, kumbaya, like it is legit the most effective ways that you can intervene. So I will give you a little plug that if you want to take a whole fulsome training on it, we offer them for free. You can get in touch with me. If you know of other people who would definitely benefit from this learning, I can offer you that. But I want to very quickly give you what we call the 5 Ds of bystander intervention, which are proven, and I don't know how I somehow marked it up like it's a PowerPoint or something. Oh, it went away. They're proven methodology. So these are 5 super, super concrete things that you can do if you witness any kind of hate or harassment in any kind of public space. So again, not just sexual harassment, racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, transphobia, just someone being drunk and obnoxious, anything that you want to de-escalate and just chill it out. Here are 5 ways that you can do that. It's not a hierarchy. You choose what tool makes the most sense for how safe you feel in the situation, but also what exactly you're witnessing and how volatile it has become. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you some examples of what this stuff looks like in practice rather than just telling you. So the very first one is distract. And what happens and how the bystander intervenes is very subtle. So if you want, you can hop into the chat and tell me what exactly just happened here. Okay, so what just happened here? Well, what we did is I tripped, oopsie daisies, just happened to trip, and in doing so created some sort of a commotion, which then put all the attention on me and created a split second where that woman could have gotten off the bus. She could have told that driver what happened. She could have sat somewhere else, or she could focus on that woman and be like, oh my God, are you okay? And help her get back up. And now I'm focusing on you and not the person who was being awful to me. So if you're a current or former theater kid, this is your time to shine, because I want you to spill something, drop something, stumble, make some sort of a commotion nearby that allows that split second of a distraction that can help that person get away. This is also the, like, as a woman, I can't even tell you how many times I've done this in my life where I go up to a woman I've never met before and I'm like, oh my God, girl, so sorry we got split up. How are you doing? Da, da, da. We're going to go grab more drinks. Do you want to come with me? I don't know this woman. She knows I don't know her, but I'm creating an excuse to help her get away. So that's when you could go up to someone and be like, oh man, I'm looking for this person. Or, hey, do you know what time this band's going to be going on? I'm super stoked to listen to them. Hey, are you having a good time? Oh my God, it sounds so great. The weather's amazing. I am chatting you up and I am acting like someone who cannot read a room, who has no idea anything even remotely awkward is happening, because the point is I'm giving you an excuse to get away from this person that's being awful. So that is distract. Another tool we have is delegating. So this is going to give you an example in the context of public transit, but think of it as yourself, as someone who's going to be volunteering. You might be someone that someone delegates to, but also everything that you just went over in terms of delegating to security, to police, to medical staff, depending on the situation.
There's a man touching a woman at the back of the bus, and I don't know what to do. Can you help?
So you don't know what to do, or you realize, ooh, this is not something I can handle. So I'm going to find the person that does. I'm on the bus, I'm telling the driver. I'm at a coffee shop, I'm telling a barista. I'm flagging down the security guard at the mall. I'm finding security at the venue. I'm going to see another volunteer even to be like, this is really, I don't know what to do here. Do we know what we should do? Or I feel too scared to approach it on my own. If we're two people, that might make us safer in the long run. So it's really delegating to either another bystander or to someone basically kind of like above your pay grade who's better equipped to be able to intervene. That's not the same thing as the bystander effect, right? The bystander effect is like, we're all just going to assume that someone else is going to do it. This is recognizing I might not be the right person, but I'm going to find the right person and not just walk away from this situation. Okay, now we have another tool called document. Okay, so what you see here is our trusty ally is recording. What you do not see is that she's also asked someone else to go and talk to the driver. So ideally, you're not just going to document, you're going to do it in tandem with something else. Additionally, you're not streaming live. Like the point of this is not to capture footage that you're then going to post on social media, even if you're going to include a big rant about how awful it was. You're witnessing an event that is happening to someone else. They should have complete control over what happens with that documentation. So the goal of documenting is to both equip the person who's been harmed with like, here's a video of the person, here's a photo, but also things like a description, right? A license plate number, or even just writing down or memorizing like, okay, what did this person look like? What kind of hat were they wearing? Did they have any kind of like noticeable things about them so that I can approach the person, check in on them and say, holy smokes, I saw that. Are you okay? But also, if I'm going to report it to security, I've made note of everything that's happened around me. Because when it happens to us, we often just kind of go blank and then we can't remember details because we were just kind of in a bit of a fog. So you as a bystander can provide that context to help them report it, get that person kicked out, you know, if it's on the bus, get them kicked off, whatever the context is. Okay, last two tools that we have in our toolbox. This one is called delay.
Are you okay? Want me to hang around for a bit so he doesn't come back?
Delay is really, really powerful because we live in a culture where unfortunately, especially when it's sexual harassment, but honestly, any kind of bad stuff that happens to you, you're often met with skepticism from people who are like, you wish that happened. There's no way that happened. I was there. They were just trying to be nice. You're being too sensitive, da, 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 da. So just checking in on someone confirms for them that this really did happen. It really did suck, but I got you. And in fact, we partnered with Cornell University to measure the impact of delay. And we have concrete evidence that even if all you can do is lock eyes with someone and give them that empathetic, like, oh my God, are you okay? Even just doing that reduces the level of trauma associated with the incident. Why? Because I'm not stuck in a tailspin of, did that really just happen? Oh my God, maybe if I hadn't worn this, or maybe if I hadn't done this, this wouldn't have happened to me. You've just interrupted that line of thinking with like, that was not your fault. That wasn't okay. I got you. So if what happens is really quick and then it kind of disperses and you think, oh, I've missed my chance, still go up to the person targeted. Or if what happens freaks you out and you kind of freeze and then the moment passes and you're like, oh, I missed my chance, still go up to the person or people who've been harmed to say, hey, do you need to come sit with us for a while? Do you need some water? What do you need? How can I help? I got you. And even just, I'm so sorry that happened. People suck, but that's not your fault, right? Powerful stuff. Okay, last one. Last thing is how to intervene directly. So this is what a lot of people's go-to is, especially people who are like very confident and just very like maybe privileged people who are like, I gotta be louder than the person being awful. That's how I'm going to shut it down. Not always the case, can oftentimes make it worse. So I want to show you how you can intervene directly in the moment in a way that de-escalates instead of jacking up the volume. So I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to pause it. And I want you to tell me, based on everything we've talked about for the last like 6 minutes, what should this person do next?
Hey, I like your jacket. Where'd you get it?
Could you leave me alone? You're being totally inappropriated right now.
Okay, so step one is you say to the person, enough. They said no, they're not interested, da 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 da. You shut it down, right? That's step one. Step two is, and I love that some folks have just straight up DM'd me, love this, right? You want to turn towards the person who's been harmed and check in with them, right? So you say, hey, enough. They said no, let it go. Hey, do you want to come over, hang out with us over here? How about we just go and grab a drink? Hey, do you want to head to the washrooms? What are we doing? We are done with the person who is committing the harm. If we continue to engage with them, that is what ratchets up the volume and it turns into a screaming match and it makes everything worse, right? So shut it down. And if that person says like, mind your business, whatever, you're like, hey, I got my volunteer shirt on, right? So it's like, hey, actually, do you want to come over here for a sec? I guarantee you the person who is doing that who's being harmed is going to go with you because now they know they're not alone in doing that, right? So if you want to intervene directly, shut it down quickly and then very quickly turn and focus on the person who's been harmed. If we do those things, whether it's at Bluesfest, on the bus, at a coffee shop, at a Red Blacks game, like wherever you happen to be in the world, you will make a difference, I assure you. And I can tell you, I hear from people all the time who went into this thinking skeptically, people are selfish, they don't look out for each other, and then realize that's actually not true. And if we want the vibes to be immaculate, we need to figure out how we can work together to make that happen. So I want to thank the Bluesfest folks for inviting us to have this conversation with you. I want to encourage you to have the best time ever. But also to just look out for each other, not just when you're volunteering, but also when you're there checking out a free show. Just keep an eye on people. And I promise you, it will make a huge difference in people's experience of being at the festival. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Julie. And thank you from Stand Up and Right to Be. All right, everyone, we'll get back into our presentation as we wrap up here. So for the final portion of this evening, you'll be going into breakout rooms. So what will happen is you'll go into a breakout room with your specific team. So I'll open all of the breakout rooms and then you'll be able to add yourself into the breakout room. So look for your team on the list when you see it open and then click into it and join it. If you don't see something pop up when I open the rooms, then you'll see at the bottom of Zoom, there'll be something that says breakout rooms. You can click that button and that will let you in. If you're still having trouble after that, you can also write your team name in the chat and we'll help you join your team room. So let me open up the rooms now. So all rooms are open. You should be able to go ahead and join your team room. Thanks so much, guys. See you later.